The creepiest part was right before we got a hold of him, he had already sent us on a text to tell him goodbye.
Declaring emergencies. We're talking to the guys on the other side of the radio today in the hangar.
I used to be a well-respected member of the aviation community, and then I started flying to Cirrus, and that changed.
Oh, that was great until the engine quit.
And all of a sudden I see these explosions and these trees exploding.
I'm walking away a better pilot because of this discussion.
Welcome, I'm Christy Wong. Today we're here with some very special guests. We're talking to air traffic controllers, and they've offered to share up some stories today and wisdom on how to handle emergencies in the air. So we've got Hugh, Bill, and Matt. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, I want to start off just by asking you guys, when should we declare an emergency? As a pilot, I mean, obviously, if I have like a radio malfunction or an alternator failure or something, is that truly an emergency?
I guess it depends on how you perceive it. I mean, an alternator failure, I mean, pilots train for that. Your engine's still running, maybe not declare, but then alternator failure could lead to other things. I guess, long story short, if you think it's worthy enough, or you're just not, used to that situation, declare. Worst case scenario, you land on the ground safe. But then if you don't declare and you really need the help and you don't declare with ATC and we can't help you, it could end up a lot worse. So
I agree with that. It's up to the pilot. We can't help if we don't know, so make sure you let us know.
And on the flip side, sometimes we suspect something's wrong, and you might not. We can declare an emergency for you.
Okay. Yeah, so have you guys ever had to do that before?
Plenty of times.
Really? So it's a common occurrence?
Well, with not as common as you may think.
Okay.
But I've declared multiple times for students who just didn't sound very good on the radio. They're just like, tower, and that to me is like, I'll keep an eye on you. But then again, like if you're not doing what I'm asking you to do, I'm just going to go ahead and roll the trucks. Worst case scenario, they roll out to the runway, you land safe, everybody goes home happy, and that's it. But we don't know, especially if you're Nordo and you come in, or you're just saying a lot. We don't know. Communicate. We assume the worst, essentially.
One thing that's interesting with working a small tower is now that cell phones are active and usable, most pilots probably don't realize this, but once you're low enough, your cell phone will work. And a cell phone is a whole lot easier to talk to a tower than a light gun. So
yes,
if I'm getting this out to controller, to pilots out there that might not have a clue or have an idea of that, Christy Pilot flies where I work, and we've got a lot of students, and most of the instructors at the school have our phone number in the tower. And it's a whole lot easier. Answer the phone, okay, just make straight in, you're clear to land, get out of their way, than to try to put the shades up and shine a light gun at the guy that looks about that big when you're in the plane out there.
And I've seen that light gun at night. I actually did have an alternator failure coming in, and I wasn't sure if we were going to lose our electrical because we were coming back from Mineral Wells. That's like a 30-minute flight, and you've only got about 30 minutes of battery time. That's exactly what we did. We called up the control tower, and it was Zach working, and so he got the light gun ready. And as we came in, we still had electricity, so we were still communicating. He was like, you know what? Let's just do this, though, for good measure. It would be a good learning opportunity for everyone all around. We couldn't see it, especially because of where the beacon is and everything. And so having the cell phone, that was incredibly beneficial. So I absolutely agree with that.
Light gun's very, very last resort because they're not very good.
Yeah, I know a few pilots who have confused them with the beacon. But cell phones, it's a good thing, especially if you got the Bose 820 or the light speeds that you can connect your phone to it and your stuff breaks or whatever. Yeah, call us on the phone. It's not the end of the world.
Something to suggest in the tower environment, you're down low and voice communication works. In the en route environment, you might be higher in your cell phone if you've tried to look at it while you're flying, if it's not in airplane mode. Your cell phone doesn't always get a signal. And we learned through an emergency that text works. Because when your cell phone, if a controller sends you a text, you're flying along 6, 8, 10,000 feet, you might get a signal. Once you get that signal, that text will sit there and wait. You get the signal, and then it will go through. And we had to communicate with the guy that way. And because of that, I like to tell aviators, there's a remarks section in your flight plan. I would recommend that you start filing your cell phone number in the remarks section of the flight plan because it helps terminal and en routers out. If all else fails, we got a way to communicate with you.
So you can actually like find that phone number and say, hey, Christy, this is Hugh from Fort Worth Center.
Well, yeah, because
et cetera, et cetera.
when you file your flight plan, they're electronic now displayed for the en route.
Right.
And
But I mean, you guys can actually text.
We see the remarks.
Wow. Okay.
No, we're not supposed to because
right.
cell phones are
Emergencies are-
verboten.
Yeah.
So
But in an emergency situation, you could call a supervisor or somebody
Right.
to come over and intervene.
right.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's good to know. So you recently won an award for
Yeah.
an emergency situation. Tell us about that.
So it was Super Bowl Sunday, not Super Bowl last year, and it was about 9:30 at night, and we cleared a Cardinal for an approach at Paris Airport, and the temperature dew point was coming together, and the ceilings were going down, the fog was coming in, and all they had out there was the one he was on was the GPS approach. Cleared him for the approach, cleared him off frequency. We saw him climb out. We got a couple radar hits on his transponder, and he was climbing through 3,500, 4,000 feet. And me and the other controller, who was actually cleared for the approach, I was on an adjacent sector, immediately pulled down the approach plates because that didn't look right. It's like the missed approach altitude is like 2,500 feet, and he blew that. So we knew something was wrong. We saw one radar hit of 7,700, which shows emergency in our data block, and then there was no more transponder. So we tracked a primary target, which in the en route environment, we got long range radar. It's a little bit more difficult to track primaries than in a terminal radar with a faster, more accurate radar. But we tracked that guy. He's a doctor. We found out. We Googled his IN number, and luckily he didn't register it to a Delaware corporation, so we got his name. Found out who he's a doctor. It's like, we're spitballing ideas off you. How do we get a hold of this guy? I said, well, call his practice. Maybe he's got an answering service. Well, he's a country doctor. We called the practice, and there was no answering service. So I was like, okay, let's find out if he's going to Paris. How many hospitals are in Paris? Maybe 1, 2. So we Googled hospitals in Paris, and we called the hospital switchboard, and the supervisor was doing this, and the supervisor was able to convince the switchboard operator who we were, and that we were working a doctor. We wanted to know if he practiced there, and we had to kind of coax this information from her, and she said, yes, he does. I said, we really need his cell phone number. Can you imagine on the other side, these guys are punking me or something, but we finally convinced her to give us the cell phone number, and the first thing we did is we accessed the PABX line on our ATC radios. We can get a outside line. It's called PABX, and we tried to call the guy, and of course, it didn't go through because of what I was saying. He was up about 8,000 feet at that time. So somebody came up with the idea, let's text him. So one of the controllers walked out of the control room in the cell phone approved area and sent a text. Hey, this is Fort Worth Center. Is this Dr. Effenhofer? And Edenhofer, sorry, I mispronounced that. And a couple minutes later, a text came back, said, yes, it is. Oh my God, I thought you guys were watching the Super Bowl and had no idea what was going on. So he walked back in the control room with his cell phone, showed the supervisor, says, I got a hold of the guy. Supervisor says, just stay right here and let's use the cell phone there. And we eventually, got a hold of him, told him to fly west, and he landed safe and sound at Greenville Majors, after all that. But the only way we were talking with him was by text.
Wow.
So.
What wound up happening? Did he have like a full electrical failure, or?
He told us later on they found out that he had a short in his landing light. It completely took out his whole electrical. So he was not using an iPad or any type of moving map device. He had his cell phone. So he had Google. He said he had Google Maps, but because he wasn't getting data, the map didn't load. He just saw a target symbol. So he knew he was flying on a whiskey compass and a Google Maps. He knew he was going west, and we told him to go west. The weather's better. Another aside later on, he told us that he had in the airplane a handheld radio, yet it was still in the box from when it got shipped to him, and he figured that was not the time to unbox it and learn how to use this radio. He has since learned how to use that radio, and I think he said he does have a moving map application, because I know when I fly with an iPad. So, but he was doing all this blind above the clouds. He finally saw the runway environment at Majors, landed. It was all good. So the creepiest part was right before we got a hold of him, he had already sent us on a text to tell him goodbye.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. So,
that's ominous.
A lot more to the story, but
Yeah.
that's it in a nutshell. But it was successful, and that situation, night IFR, no radios, no nothing. you normally don't survive that kind of thing.
Yep.
That's incredible. Wow.
Cool story.
Yeah. Do you guys have any crazy stories of I guess emergencies helping people down, anything like that?
I do actually. I have one from that happened actually about a week ago. It was a student. He was coming into land. He was on a long cross country or whatever. I'm guessing he was tired. It was nighttime. He was supposed to land during the day. I guess he wasn't night approved and wasn't sure. And so I'm working. I had very few airplanes. I tried to. The second I heard his voice kind of stumble a little bit, I'm like, okay, let's get this guy in. Let's get him landed. I brought him in over Fort Worth, over downtown, and I said, go ahead and follow this King Air on a base. Okay, I got him. We'll follow him. Came in just fine. Then he starts climbing and circling over downtown. And I'm watching him. I'm like, what is he doing? You know, I mean, is he just getting altitude? Did he get lost? I mean, what's the deal? And then the King Air lands and exits the runway. And then there's another one that comes in right behind him. It's actually Citation. And he finally starts to communicate with me again. And I say, hey man, what's going on? Are you okay? Come to the runway, come and land. Tower, and that was it. That's all I got. And so he just kept circling. He climbed to like 3,500 feet. And I'm like, try to stay out of the Bravo if you can still hear me. Another one comes in, and finally he comes in and he circles and he comes down toward the runway. And this was not the best thing to hear on frequency. The other pilot of this Citation said, can you actually hold him out of my way so I can land? And I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm taking care of the situation. Thank you. Just go ahead and land. So the student comes in and I don't know if he's lost. He finally got the field inside. I said, listen, we were landing north, so in 3-4. I said, listen, let's do this. The winds are calm. What I want you to do, he was still at he actually almost got to 4. I said, go ahead and start your descent. Just come on down to like 1,500 feet, nice and slow. The winds are calm. Come in and land 1-6. Be just as easy. Okay, so finally he comes down. He's still doing this in the downwind, and I'm like, I'm just watching him at this point. And I said, okay, pull your power back, start your base turn. Pull your flaps, come on.
So you're like coaching him through this.
Essentially,
Oh, wow.
and I'm not even CFI yet, but I was talking him down. Flaps 2, go turn, flaps another 1, you see the runway. I turned all the lights on for him and everything. He got on the ground and landed. I'm just like, hey, go ahead and just taxi to park, and I'll tell ground control that you're going that way. He's like, okay, oh, thanks, tower, oh my gosh, and said some other things that I'm not gonna repeat. But he taxied to park, and, I breathed.
Good. Wow.
It was great. They I don't know if they wrote me for something or whatever, but he just got on the ground. I actually know the chief flight instructor of that school, and I sent him a text later, and I said, hey man, I just want to let you know that this guy that was flying this airplane is having just a little bit of trouble coming down, and liveatc.net. It's a great resource. You can go listen to the tapes and hear exactly what happened. I said, recommend you go and listen to what happened, and y'all take it from there. We like to work really close with the flight school, so that way we can keep it as safe as possible. So, he got talked down, and
wow,
I was ready to go on break after that was done.
Yeah,
but it was good. It was good stuff.
Well, thank you guys again so much. These stories have been incredible, and what a great learning opportunity. Thank you guys for joining us. And again, if you like what you see, please watch, share, and subscribe. We'll see you all next time.